Less than 24 hours after meeting this woman in a bar, she was standing outside a massage parlour crying with laughter. And unfortunately, I was the reason why.
Luna Beach is humming with a restless soul, rock and roll spirit taking full control from the cliffside bars to the hidden caves, where the kings and queens of the midnight waves.
The morning after our first night together, I woke up surprisingly early. Kathy did not. I'd already had breakfast, hired a scooter for the rest of my stay in Bohol, and was back at the hotel before she'd even opened her eyes. Now, this was when I learned something important about Filipinos. They do not do mornings. At least, Kathy didn't. I'm sitting there fully awake, transport sorted, ready to start exploring the island, and she's still asleep like she's auditioning for Sleeping Beauty. I was beginning to wonder at what point it becomes socially acceptable to check someone's pulse. Eventually she wakes up, looking considerably more refreshed than I felt, and we headed into town for some lunch. Now, after the previous day's travelling, drinking, dancing and general chaos, there was one thing I desperately needed: a massage, a proper one. Now, I've been to Thailand several times. I love Thai massages. So when we found someone offering one, I thought, perfect, I know exactly what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. They took us into a back room with reclining chairs along one side and mats laid out on the floor. Kathy sat down in one of the recliners. I got shown to one of the mats. Looking back, that probably should have been my first warning. At first, everything was perfect, relaxing, peaceful, exactly what I needed. Then, the masseuse grabbed my legs, and before I knew it, I was being folded in half like a travel brochure. My legs were somewhere above my head, my knees were getting dangerously close to my ears. I'm lying there staring at the ceiling, wondering whether this is still a massage, or whether she's trying to pack me into hand luggage. The entire time, Kathy doesn't say a word, not even a smile. She somehow manages to keep a completely straight face. We finish, walk outside, the door closes behind us, and she completely loses it. Full belly laugh. She'd apparently spent the entire massage trying not to laugh. Watching a British bloke being folded into shapes that no human body was designed to make was apparently the funniest thing she'd seen all day. And honestly, fair enough. Although, as embarrassing as that was, the scooter I'd hired that morning was about to cause me considerably bigger problems. But we'll come back to that, because I'd actually come to Bohol to explore Bohol. So we jumped on the scooter and headed inland. One of the things I love most about travelling by scooter is that you actually feel connected to the place. You're not looking at everything through a coach window. You'll notice the villages, the people, the little roadside shops, the scenery gradually changing around you. And eventually we reached one of Bohol's most famous landmarks, the man-made forest. Now, I'll be honest, calling something a man-made forest doesn't exactly sell it, but riding through it was genuinely beautiful. These huge mahogany trees completely surround the road, the temperature drops, the light changes, and for a few minutes it feels like you've entered a completely different world. There was quite a few people there, tourist fans, coaches, people stopping for photos, but for some reason I also seemed to be attracting a bit of attention. Cars were driving past, people waving, a few even beat their horns as they went by. To this day, I've absolutely no idea why. Maybe they recognised me, although considering the size of my YouTube channel, I highly doubt it. Whatever the reason, for a few minutes I seemed to be getting almost as much attention as the forest. From there, we carried on to somewhere I've been really looking forward to, the Tarsier sanctuary. I'd seen photos before coming to the Philippines. Tiny little primates, massive eyes, they almost don't look real, but seeing them in person is something else. They're incredibly small, incredibly quiet, and because everyone has to keep the noise down, the whole place has this really peaceful atmosphere. Unfortunately, my iPhone 13 Pro Max wasn't quite as impressed. They had done a brilliant job filming most of the trip, but trying to capture tiny animals hiding in trees was asking a bit much. Looking back, this is exactly the sort of situation where my DJI Pocket 3 would have made life much easier. So if you're struggling to spot the Tarsiers, don't worry, so was my camera. By the time we got back, it was nice to slow everything down for a while. We sat by the pool, walked down onto the hotel's little private beach, and did absolutely nothing. Sometimes when you're travelling, you feel guilty for not constantly doing something, for not ticking another attraction off the list. But moments like this remind me that's not really what travel is about. Sometimes the best memories come from simply sitting somewhere beautiful, thousands of miles from home, with someone you didn't even know existed 2 days earlier, wondering how on earth life ended up taking you there. Of course, the peace didn't last very long. That evening we met up with Smiley and Harry again, and somehow ended up in another Filipino nightclub. This one was completely different. It was absolutely packed, loud, cramped, and full of people. The previous night walking into a Filipino nightclub I felt like walking into an old western saloon. Everyone seemed to notice. This time, not so much. There was a couple of other westerners there. Between them, me and Harry, I don't think anyone really blinked, which if I'm honest, made it much easier just to enjoy the night. And that's probably the thing I remember most about those first few days in Bohol. I arrived on my own. Within 48 hours, I'd somehow acquired a scooter, a fake girlfriend, an Italian friend who introduced me to Jollibee Spaghetti, someone called Smiley, and apparently a social life. Not bad for someone who normally prefers his own company. But remember that scooter I mentioned earlier? Yeah. There's a kitten, a puncture, tropical rain, a Filipino mechanic, and one of the most frustrating days of the entire trip. Apparently, Bohol wasn't quite finished with me yet.